Well, good morning. It's the appointed time. And Carol, I believe we have a quorum. Do you agree? The quorum is present, so we'll call to order the meeting for March the 26th of the MAPS 3 Citizens Advisory Board. You have been provided copies of two sets of minutes. We'll act on first those from February the 26th, our previous meeting of the month of February. Are there additions or corrections to those minutes?
Move approval.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The minutes are approved. Item 3 will be the minutes of the March 16th meeting. You will recall that this was the special meeting of the Convention Center subcommittee that was called, and because a number of you had expressed an interest in attending that meeting, we also posted that as an official meeting of this board as well. And so included in your packet, you have found the minutes of that special meeting of the Citizens Advisory Board. Are there additions or corrections?
Move approval.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve those minutes. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Those minutes are approved as well. Now let's begin with what we call the good news with David and the revenue and expenditure report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You have in your packet the MAPS 3 revenue and expenditure report for the period ending February 28, 2015. It's in its usual format. On the revenue side for the month, it's $10,041,679. The fiscal year, $75,691,791, and total program revenue $492,435,150. On the expenditure side, for the month we have $5,330,435. Fiscal year $25,562,377. For total expenditures of $88,528,788. You also have the budget and obligations report for the period ending March 9th, 2015, and you can see significant money is being spent. Well, I'm sorry, you can see that significant money is obligated already for each of the individual projects. So I can answer any questions you might have.
Any questions? Michael, your comments for us?
I don't have any questions, but I would note that the collection figure of over $10 million, it's amazing that a penny sales tax can generate $10 million a month. But that's good for us.
That's real good for us.
Keep shopping.
Well, I don't want to take all the credit, but Brenda's doing her part.
And I promise you I am too.
Any other comments?
I was just going to echo your comment. My wife is contributing to the economy as well. If I'm recalling correctly, the last couple of months we had been under target, and now we're significantly over target on the revenue side. So it's encouraging to see. Hopefully that is the trend rather than the negative number.
And really, without a giggle, shopping in Oklahoma City is incredibly important. So for those that are listening to us, that penny only is generated in the city limits. And so, you know, if we slip over to Midwest City or drop down to Moore or go to Edmond to shop, we're not helping support all of these fantastic projects. So,
or shop online.
Or shop online. Thank you, Mike. Or shop online, which is critically important. So it makes a difference when we're supporting our local merchants and retailers, and everybody can make a difference.
Bob, I wanted to mention that if you look at the footnoted item 2, target on the extreme right-hand side, I think that reflects how we're doing versus where the target to begin with. The target for the year is adjusted each year by the accounting people, but as to what they anticipate. But for the project as a whole, we're 5.8% above target. And I think if you did the math, it turns out to be like the target was $8.3 million a month when we started of revenue, and so $10 million is a good month.
Well, it's just there's been so much concern. You see the reports in the media about declining oil prices and what effect that's going to have on disposable dollars that wind up being spent for goods and services, and it's encouraging to see that at least our citizenry is sustaining itself despite the decline in prices of the
Agreed.
oil.
So the irony there, Bob, is probably that with the fall in the price of gasoline, folks have more disposable money right now, and you're sure seeing it in restaurants and in, places are just packed. So that's all good for us.
I think the budget and obligations report also reflects something that's a target for all of us, and that is that every project is moving. I mean, there's money being spent on all of the projects, and that's reflected in the report we have.
Tom, I guess, just back on the target versus the, where we stand, and that 5.8% that we're at, that's against the $777 million
Yes.
total project budget, and if that maintains, I mean, that's $45 million. If we maintain, that would be $45 million extra dollars that would be excess collections available for these projects. So hopefully that will continue, and we'll have that money to use.
Exactly. Well, it's indeed good news. So any other discussion or questions? Shall we receive the report?
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we receive the report. That's before you in item 4. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The report is received. Item number 5, David.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item 5 is recommend resolution approving amendment number 2 to the contract for architectural services with Populous Incorporated for MAPS 3 Convention Center, increase of $265,000, project M3-C003. As I'm sure you know, we have decided not to continue to pursue the site that we had identified for the convention center, and we're going to begin that process again, and we're going to engage Populous, who was the original architectural firm that helped us with that first site selection. We're going to re-engage them to do that again. So what you see here is an amendment to their contract that we had in place for design. So there's a big number there, but this increase is $265,000 for architectural services to help us with the site selection. This comes with the approval from the Convention Center Subcommittee.
I would just add that hiring the same people who eliminates the duplication of a lot of effort that's already gone into this, and I'm sure we're going to hear a lot more about the convention center in David's report as well. Sue, anything you want to add to that? Well, it does come with our recommendation that we approve this. Further discussion?
But just a question, the 150 that we're adding, is that just for the site selection, or is there any design consideration involved in that number?
The 150 you see there is additional services, and that number was in there originally. That's not the addition. The addition
okay,
is the 265,000. The additional services is in there if we need additional prints, if we need just various small things, and it's usually based on a percentage of the overall contract.
Okay, and it's a not to exceed number.
Right, but that's what I said is this big number here is for the total design. The original contract that we had for site selection was finished out and closed, so what we did is we amended this design contract to add the site selection services, and that's the $265,000.
Okay, gotcha.
And I think to further on to Chairman McDaniel's comments, we do have a fairly aggressive timeline. We're hoping to get this back to council by July 7th, I think is the date, David.
That's right.
Yes.
And not that it's, I don't think it's overly aggressive. We've done a lot of the work, but we are on a short timeline, and so to be able to use the institutional knowledge, if you will, of Populous probably makes a lot of sense.
Yes. Further discussion? Been moved and seconded that we approve the recommended resolution. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The resolution is approved. That brings us to item 6 on the agenda. David?
Thank you. Item 6 is recommend authorizing staff to negotiate a sole source contract with Rapid Blocks Limited for the MAPS 3 Whitewater Facility obstacles and forwarding the sole source contract to City Council when finalized, project M3-R004D. This is the obstacles that go in the Whitewater course itself. If you remember the presentation, you've seen the objects that look like Legos stack like Legos and lay in there. They're the objects that actually cause the whitewater. As the water runs through there, it disrupts the flow. This is the system that we specifically chose when we started the interview. There's only 3 ways of doing this, and one of them is putting actually rocks in concrete in the system, and then there's 2 different systems, and this is the system we chose. We need to go ahead and get this going, and the reason we've got it styled this way is we weren't able to completely complete the contract in time. We've been working on this for some time. They're out of Great Britain. There's complications because of it being an international transaction. So we're very close to getting this done, and I didn't want to wait another month and even remotely start to delay that whitewater project if we couldn't get these things delivered on time. So what was discussed in the River Subcommittee on Tuesday was to approve this, but they amended it to put a maximum of $1.6 million on it. So if you're inclined to make that motion today, I think that would be appropriate to add that maximum on there.
Dave, I think it was really interesting. We all learned a lot in the subcommittee meeting because this is a purchase in British pounds. And so I didn't know that cities couldn't, like buy forward contracts in foreign currency. There's a lot of stuff that we can't do. So that not to exceed contract is trying to take into account the foreign exchange risk and put most of that risk on the seller. They've agreed to a not to exceed price. But if the exchange rate continues to work in our favor, we actually will pay less. And we could pay less. I'm looking at Jeffrey over here. I think we could pay less than the $1.3 million that we think it's going to be currently if rates continue to move, if the dollar continues to strengthen. So it's kind of an interesting concept, but I didn't realize that municipalities, I guess it makes a lot of sense that we're not supposed to take risk.
Right.
So municipalities are really restricted in how we can manage that in advance of the actual purchase, if that's clear.
Well, I think that's pretty well covered. The budget for this item is the $1.3 million, and I think, and that's what the price is, I guess, at today's currency. And so, we're willing to go. I guess they're going to give us a price that it won't exceed $1.6 million at today's.
Right. What we have is a Great Britain pound cost, and that will always remain the same. It's just the exchange rate that'll move.
Right. So this $300,000 number that's floating only relates to exchange rate. I mean, the price of the blocks are pretty well already established, so it's just trying to mitigate that exchange rate risk.
Does the resolution or does the recommended authorization include the maximum that you have suggested, or does this need to be amended before we vote? Or
It needs to be amended.
okay, we're doing okay, Carol? Okay, then
I would move that we amend that proposed resolution. I would move that we amend that proposed resolution to include a not to exceed $1.6 million.
I'll second that.
it's been moved and seconded that we adopt the resolution as amended with that the contract price would not exceed $1.6 million. Is everyone clear on the resolution that's before us? It's been moved and seconded that we approve this resolution. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Did I skip something, Mark?
To approve the amendment and then approve the resolution? Oh, no. It's not a resolution.
You moved the amended, you have to move the amendment first and then the resolution. All right.
It's not a resolution at all, I guess they're saying. It's just a recommendation.
Carol, tell me what we need to do and I'll get this right. Okay, Sue has made the motion that we move it as it has been amended, and someone seconded it.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh, you made the motion?
I seconded it.
She seconded it. All right. We finally got the chairman straight. Further discussion? All in favor say aye. Item 7 on your agenda, we are striking for today's consideration. That is a recommendation, as you can see, of art locations for the senior wellness centers. The subcommittee decided not to make a recommendation about that or to act on it yesterday. Is that?
Yes, we did not have a quorum on yesterday.
Okay. So we're asking that that be stricken from today's agenda. That takes us to item 8 for a resolution approving a change order. David?
Yes, sir. Item 8 is recommend resolution approving change order number 4 and amendment number 3 for MAPS 3 Oklahoma State Fairgrounds Phase 2 New Expo Building, increase of $231,693.01, project M3-F002. There is 6 items on here as a change order, most significant being the floor box modifications. If you'll remember, in the expo hall, each place where there may be a booth for exhibitors, there's a box in the floor, and that box in the floor has a lot of things in it, like electric and internet and those kind of things. And after reviewing the mock-up, if you will, for the box, it was decided that we needed to put some breakers and some other plumbing stuff in there. So $184,380.32. That's for about 160 of these boxes. These boxes are all over that floor. So they've asked that we make that modification. Still struggling with some of the subgrade here. Item number 1, $10,000. Some additional concrete. The most strip deletion, there's a $13,000 credit. And then you'll see under the amendment part, there is removing some of the pad and then putting some of the pad back with engineered fill. So what we have as far as change order number 4 is $204,549.01. That represents 0.55% of the contract. And then the total of the change orders 1 through 4 is 2.7%. This comes with the recommendation from the Fairgrounds Subcommittee.
Bob, any comments you want to offer?
Well, I was unable to attend the subcommittee meeting, so I can't add anything to what David has said.
Yeah, I was there, and most of the discussion. I mean, the good news is that we're over. Looks like over the hurdles with the soil, and that number is just $10,000, I think, in this change order. And as David said, the majority of this recommendation is a change in the actual boxes.
Yeah.
And so the comment was that once we start to get out of the ground, I say our architect, Alan Brown, is here, but once we start to get out of the ground in the construction of the building, things become a lot more predictable. And so we've got our fingers crossed that that's all true, but we still have over $1 million, I think $1.4 million or so, David, in contingency
Yes, ma'am.
remaining in the actual project. And so this did come with a recommendation of the committee.
So, again, this change order does not occasion an increase in the budget. It's within our budget.
It is.
Gloria?
I just want to express the appreciation to the staff for giving us an explanation on those change orders and being in compliance with state law as we move forward on this. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. All right, shall we adopt this resolution? It's been moved and seconded that we adopt this resolution as described. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The resolution is approved. That takes us to item 9 on the agenda. David?
Item 9 is recommend resolution approving change order number 2 and amendment number 2 for MAPS 3 Phase 1 West River Trail connection, South Meridian Avenue to South Council Road. Increase of $76,724.91, project M3-T001. The change order includes 6 items. Item 1 is a little over $13,000 for some landscaping. As we went through and did the trail, a lot of trees and things were removed, and there was one fairly unsightly area that we've decided to add some cedar trees in there to help screen some of that. There's some bollards that are changed from permanent bollards to removable bollards. Then the asphalt revision comes with some talk that we had with the Parks Department, changing Type B, which is a rougher type asphalt. It's what you typically see on streets, to this Type C, which is what you typically see in parking lots. It's much finer rock, and it gives a smoother surface and a little tighter asphalt to keep some of the water penetration out. So that's $13,000 on that. Some temporary fence, some fencing modifications, and some bollard installation. Then we also have on this an amendment. Remember, amendments are items that we got individual quantities for the items, and we're just adjusting those quantities, and all those quantity adjustments are shown in the actual change order itself, but quantity adjustments are $36,978. So the change order represents 1%, and the total of change orders 1 and 2 is 2.2%, so we're well within our limit of change orders. And the total for change orders and amendments is $267,221, and this comes with the approval of the Trails and Sidewalks Subcommittee.
Thank you. Sue, any comments?
I was just going to add that it comes with a recommendation of the subcommittee. However, we do want them to look at an alternate to the red cedar. There are some people concerned about the growth and spread of cedar in Oklahoma. So we've asked that they approve the amendment, but also asked the landscaper to look to see if there wasn't a better tree instead of the red cedar to use. So they're going to look into that for us.
Good. Bob?
Just to comment, I noticed that red cedar, and from everything I hear, that is a bad tree. We're trying to get rid of them in most of Oklahoma, so I hope that we can find a suitable alternative. Also, just a stupid question, what's a bollard?
Bollard is those about 4-inch, 3 to 4-inch posts that you see that have concrete in them, and they're painted red or yellow and to keep cars from driving where they shouldn't.
I assume that's what it meant, but I'm a lawyer, not a
Yeah, I understand.
contractor, so I just wanted to make sure. Thanks.
Kim?
I just have a point of note that the Nature Conservancy has a chapter here in a field office, actually, in Oklahoma City. They're down on 8th and Hudson, and they have an entire department that will consult with individuals, projects for free about plantings in Oklahoma, whether they be native species, invasive species, or hazardous species. They've done a lot of work, and it's a great resource and a great place to go visit. So we might look into some of those free alternatives as well.
Can we also have access, I think, to Brian Doherty at the Oklahoma City Community Foundation, who serves on the River Trust and some other things. He's a fantastic expert in
Very
local plannings
knowledgeable.
as well. So we've got good resources.
I'd like to add also that the staff had some discussion with us, so if we're being politically correct, that tree is not actually outlawed in the state of Oklahoma, and it is intrusive to fields and places where you're trying to grow crops, but some places it's really beneficial, especially if you're looking at stopping erosion. So I looked it up when I got home from the meeting. So we're just going to rely on our experts to help us with that, but we do know that we do have some unsightly or not as desirable scenes that we would like to do some little coverage for. So I'm confident in our city staff helping us with that. So I'll move, recommend resolution with the change order and amendment.
All right, is there a second? Been moved and seconded that the recommended resolution be approved. Further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The resolution is approved. That takes us to item 10. David?
Item 10 is recommend resolution approving change order number 4 and amendment number 1 for MAPS 3 Phase 1 West River Trail Connection, South Council Road to Northwest 10th Street, decrease of $38,694.20, project M3-T001A. Have to get to the right item here.
Did you use the word decrease?
I did.
Go ahead then.
These change orders and amendments can go both ways.
They don't very often.
That's right.
That's all right. We're going to take care of it next.
So item 1 is debris removal. As we did excavation down there in the river area, sometimes we find debris that has been left, decades ago. So there was some debris that needed to be trucked out of there. And then again, on the quantity adjustments of $41,094.20 credit on that. So that gives us the overall credit of $38,694.20. And this also comes recommended from the Trails and Sidewalks Subcommittee.
Been moved and seconded that we approve this resolution approving the change order. Further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The resolution's adopted. That brings us to item 11 on the agenda. That, David, would you handle that for us?
Yes, sir. Item 11 is a recommend resolution approving change order number 1 and amendment number 1 for MAPS 3 Phase 2, Project 1, sidewalk improvements, increase of $6,855, project M3-W002. So we moved from trails to sidewalks, and we have both a change order and amendment again. We have a revision on integral curb. Integral curb is curb that is poured at the same time that the paving is poured. Instead of having curb and gutter that sits there separate with asphalt in between them, it is poured all as one piece. We're doing work around the arterial streets, and this contract didn't have 8-inch curb that is required on arterial streets. It had 6-inch curb. So we need to revise this to go to 8-inch curb. So change order piece of it adds 2 different integral curbs, and the reason there's 2 is because one of these curbs is in the Shepherd Hills Historic Preservation Area, and they have a issue with color. They don't want the brand new basically white concrete coming in there. They need it to be more gray, so it has to have some color in it. So we've got regular integral curb, and we've got the other integral curb. And then when you get to the amendment side of that, it reduces the quantities of the 6-inch curb that was in the contract. Then there's also a water meter replacement item on there. So the total for change order 1 represents 0.83%. And then the total for change order 1 and amendment 1 is $6,855. And this also comes recommended for the Trails and Sidewalks Subcommittee.
Second?
Been moved and seconded that we approve the resolution. Are there questions or discussion?
I'll just make a quick comment. Alignment 37, that's the last one listed, is on Hefner Road, just immediately south of where I live. And while it's been a hassle getting home at night because of the cones that are up in the street while the construction's underway, it's beautiful to see it done. It's an area that desperately needed a sidewalk because there's a fair amount of foot traffic along that street. And it's also given me an appreciation for what the contractor has to do in terms of all the private drives that had to be reconstructed, working around fire hydrants, utility poles. It's not a flat, level, even area to work with, and it was fun to watch the construction, even though I had to dodge the cones on the way home. It's something that any citizen looking at can look at with appreciation and see what we're doing.
Further questions or comments? We have a motion and a second to approve the resolution. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The resolution approving the change order is adopted. That brings us to item 12 on the agenda, David.
Thank you. The good news is we're going to build more sidewalks. And these are final plans to be advertised for bids for some more alignments, and this is Project 2 of Phase 2. And this comes recommended from the Trails and Sidewalks Subcommittee.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the resolution approving these final plans and specifications. Is there a discussion or question? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. The resolution is approving the final plans and specifications is adopted. That brings us to item 13 on the agenda, new business. Is there any new business either from staff or members of the subcommittee?
We don't have anything.
All right, then. That takes us to item 14 on the, which would be the Citizens Advisory Board subcommittee reports. We've heard about several. it will not be a surprise to you that there's a lot going on with the Convention Center Subcommittee, and with Sue's concurrence, I'm going to leave that to David to try to bring us up to speed in his summary and report, and then we can all add to that, but I think he's going to give us an explanation that we'll all want to hear about how that's going. Any other subcommittee have comments they want to report to us about? Kim, how's the park going?
The park is under design. I think we might have gone from 70 miles an hour to about 40 right now, just kind of looking at what's happening with the convention center and how that may impact the big picture, which is brilliant because, we all work together. But Hargraves is moving forward, and we're really excited to see what they have next to present to us. Hopefully that will occur in April.
Thank you. Any other? Gloria?
While we did not have a quorum on yesterday, we did have a very good discussion among those who were present, and I look forward to the Arts Council coming to give to this body the explanation on the process for our 1% of arts for projects, which we moved from the agenda today. But I think that you find it really educational.
Thank you, Gloria. Do you have a report for us on how Mike Dover's doing?
I was going to say, tell you, we were really happy to see Mike on yesterday. But he's having some difficulty from his surgery, and so we were glad to see him out on yesterday. But I think there'll be a little bit too much on him. But his knee he's having some scar tissue issues, and but he's still Mike.
That's great. Thank you.
Tom, I would just add, I guess, on the River Subcommittee, I think we've covered the business that was conducted fairly well, but I would add that Mike Knopp always comes to the committee with some news, and he had brought and introduced, and I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of the individual, who he hired as the manager for the Whitewater facility. And this is the gentleman that's been managing the facility in Charlotte for the last several years. So he's moved to Oklahoma City now and started work, I think, last week, and hitting the ground running.
In that vein, Mike sent an email this morning. They're having a dignitary in town for a tour and a luncheon who started a company that has to do with aerobics, and very interested in getting connected with the river, with the physical fitness aspects of all the things going on the river. This is a gentleman, I think his name is Kenneth Cooper from Dallas.
You have at the Cooper Clinic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so this is a big day on the river as well, and is an indication of the visibility it's gaining, not only just for things happening on the river, but the aspects of healthy living as well. So, good news.
I think Mike said that they opened all of the activities on the river last weekend.
Yes.
And this was the first day on the job for our new friend from Charlotte, and he was just overwhelmed at the size of the crowds and the amount of activity going on. So bodes very, very well for us.
Thank you. All right, that brings us to item 15, informational items. David, I see you have two.
Yes, so there's two informational items on here. Item A is something you've seen before. It's some land that was bought and well, actually had to go to condemnation for sidewalks. Sometimes we have some really skinny areas because of old plats, and we have some land that we need to buy to put those sidewalks in. And then item B is the contract for the demolition in the park. This went straight to council instead of through the process because of the timeline that we had to do. It was under budget. It was all as it was planned. So in order to meet the requirements of award of contract, we send it straight to council. So I can answer any questions.
Any questions about those two informational items? Well then, David, let's move on to item 16 and your update on the status of the program. Would you do me a favor and start with the convention center?
I can. As you know, this body approved the amendment to the contract for Populous to begin site selection again. The site that was chosen, I think everyone knows, is no longer being looked at by the city to locate the convention center. So we will start that evaluation again. It will be similar to what was done before. But as was mentioned earlier, we have a lot of history there. We know a lot of things already, and it's not like starting from scratch. We'll look at a lot of the existing sites. I say existing sites, previous sites that were looked at in that process, and then there's a few new ones that have already been identified, and just based on the conversations that have taken place at the subcommittee meeting, I think there might be another one or two that we'll look at. But all options are out there to look at that. And as Councilwoman Salyer said, it is a short timeline. We're hoping to get this to council the first part of July, get this wrapped up and continue to move with the convention center.
David, if I could just comment, I've had lots of feedback from citizens. Mike, I know you have too, probably we all have. And there's some great ideas out there. So I would encourage, anybody that's kind of thinking about this and has some thoughts, send them to your council person. Councilman McAtee is here. Larry, I know, would entertain passing on comments. And so please let us know. There's certainly things out there that we don't know about. And it's an open slate, clean slate, and we're going to take a hard look at everything. So share your ideas with us, and we're moving forward.
Sue, anything you want to add?
I do. I want to just say that we're not starting over. There's a lot of work that's done. There's criteria there. We might adjust or look at that, but we have some good viable plans in place. It's a really excellent committee, and we have no doubt that we'll have some opportunities to make some good decisions.
I want to add just a couple of things. One is that it's been said before that we're going to have a pretty aggressive schedule, which may mean that we'll be having some more meetings than we might normally have to try to meet that schedule, and it'll depend a lot on the consultant and when they're available. I know that everyone on this board is interested. If you want to attend some of those meetings, you should notify staff. When we know that we could have a quorum of this group, we would need to send a notice out. So if you hear or get a notice that there is going to be a meeting of that subcommittee that you would like to attend, you need to notify staff so that we can follow the proper procedures, but we encourage you to come if you want to come. And but it's going to be an accelerated schedule with maybe more meetings than we might normally have off pattern for us. But we have great consultants, and everybody, I think, is on board to try to get this done on an expedited basis. And really, we're not that far behind schedule. You know, the convention center was one of the last things to be completed. So I don't think there's any sense of panic involved. I think we're all, we want to move with some dispatch. But on the other hand, we're still well within the time frame to get this completed. So we're feeling okay about it, although we're all quite disappointed that the effort that's gone on so far isn't going to come to fruition, but we move on. Second thing I wanted to mention to you is that the working in concert with this is the Alliance and Kathy O'Connor, as they are working they sent out proposals, a request for proposals from hoteliers around the country, and they got back 7. She reported this in our meeting yesterday. They got back proposals from 7, all substantial companies that they believe could do the job. And she has formed a group to, in compliance, I guess, with the city's process. David, are you on that committee?
No, sir.
Well, I've been asked to serve as a non-voting but member of the committee, but there will be city staff, and the good news is that she announced yesterday that when they contacted all of those 7 proposers and said that we were abandoning the site that we'd sent to them, none of them elected to withdraw their proposal. And there's a meeting at 2 o'clock this afternoon, the first meeting of that selection committee. So on both fronts, I think we're moving along in an orderly way. So while we're discouraged, still, it looks like we're going to be able to continue as we'd hoped for. Anything else? Any questions? I know there's been a lot in the news about that. Any questions that any of you all have about it? Okay, David, rest of your report.
Yes, sir. We have a lot going on at the river. We have the whitewater facility that's under construction, and it's going well. You see it as you drive by there on the highway, but you can also see it from a camera that they have mounted. If you go to the Boathouse Foundation website, you'll be able to access a camera that's been set up there. I don't know if it's operational just yet, but it should be very soon. Senior wellness, we have the 2 wellness centers, both in design, and we have negotiations underway for Wellness Center number 1. Trails and sidewalks, as you saw with all the activity on the agenda today, we have a lot going on there. Phase 1, Project 3 is under construction, and it should soon be wrapping up. Phase 1 trails, Project 1 and 2, which is the River Trail, that is wrapping up here soon also. And then Phase 2, Project 1 sidewalks is under construction. Phase 2, Project 2 sidewalks were approved today and will go to City Council for approval. And Phase 3 sidewalks are in design. The Phase 2 trail, which is the I-44 corridor, is also in design. Fairgrounds, Expo building is well under construction. If you go by there, you see the massive spot where they're drilling the piers and doing the construction out there, and it shows you just how big that Expo building is going to be. Park, design of the upper park is underway, coordination with various things like utilities, the boulevard, even convention center. Even if we've moved it from the existing site, we still have coordination issues if it ends up there nearby. Coordination with the streetcar, lots of things still going on behind the scenes with the park. And then the streetcar preliminary design is underway. We expect our preliminary report here shortly, and we'll be coming to this body within the next month or so. And then the negotiations for the streetcars is ongoing. So we have a lot going on.
Questions for David? Bob?
Yeah, it's not directly within our purview, but a 30-second update, if you can, on the boulevard. Where do we stand on?
I know that it's progressing. I don't know all the details on that. It's actually slipping my mind right now, but I can find that out for you. Just find out what the deadlines are.
Curious.
I would just add that one of the things that I guess I hope you'll be comforted by is that there were lots of meetings when the first convention site was selected where coordination meetings with the streetcar and with the park. And those consultants all got together, and there was a great effort for coordination. And I give David and his staff and Mike and ADG staff a lot of credit for coordinating all of that and getting those people together and doing a good job of it. And I just want to give you the assurance that that's still being taken into account as we work forward looking at another site. We understand it could impact the streetcar, and it could impact Park, and the boulevard is something to take into account as well. So the same care and interest that went into it the first time, well, absolutely we're assured is going to take place this time as well, and that was discussed at the committee yesterday too.
I think, Mr. Chairman, Kim described it to me best as a Rubik's Cube. We do have all these complicated pieces going on. We're almost a victim of our own success in how well we've collaborated with all of these other projects. And Mike Mize smiling over here, but I want to echo that amount of care and effort is continuing in terms of being sure that everything that's being touched will be discussed as we look at new options.
So I think we ought to be optimistic about it because we've learned a lot from the process so far, and we know it's working, and so we'll continue to go at it in a very orderly fashion. All right. Anything else, David, on your report?
No, sir.
All right. That brings us to item 17, comments by board or staff.
I'd just like to add that, we're all used to the fact that we hear about Oklahoma or Oklahoma City being identified in such and such report as being at the bottom of the list, 48th out of 50 or 49th or something like that. National Geographic annually produces a magazine issue that identifies the top 100 cities in the world that you need to go see every year. Last year, Oklahoma City broke into that at 43rd. This year, we were 9th in the world, and it identified 2 MAPS 3 projects, Whitewater Project and the Trails projects, as things you needed to see and that were happening in Oklahoma City. So I think that really speaks a lot for what we're doing.
To tandem on to that, there was another report I read this week, and I forget the source, but it considers all the best places in the United States to live. Oklahoma City has never been on that list. This is their first year for being on that list, and in the top of that list of 10, we come in at number 4.
Wow. Well, as just an addendum to what Zach said, and for reasons that probably wouldn't be obvious, one of the events that they mentioned was the Dead Center Film Festival in National Geographic. I don't know why that comes to mind.
But it's coming up the second week in June, so make sure everybody's there.
Yeah, tickets are available. But, okay. Any other comments? All right, that brings us to the opportunity that we always want to give citizens who are here to make any comments or to speak to the advisory board. Any citizens that want to be heard? If not, that brings us to the finish of our business. Someone want to move we adjourn? Been moved and seconded that we adjourn. All in favor say aye. Aye. We're adjourned. Thank you for coming.